This reading, the story for Maundy Thursday, highlights the characteristic actions of a faithful community, a family, and also some clues as to what the various actions mean, especially the act of Jesus washing the feet of his disciples. Having gathered his family around him in one place, and the air of tension that must have been present, the hint of betrayal by Judas, "Not all of you are clean," and the shocking statement to Peter, "Unless I wash you, you have no share with me." Much of Jesus' talk of betrayal is in the missing bit of the reading, but there is enough here to convey the sense that perhaps everything as they knew it was falling apart. The devil had put betrayal into the heart of Jesus, pride into the heart of Peter, confusion into the hearts of everybody else. Jesus knows it is time to depart from this world during supper, knowing that the Father had given him all things into his hands. Why did Jesus do this, knowing what he knew? Betrayal. It stings deep down. Anyone who has been betrayed knows how it shakes the foundations of a relationship that has been breached. Jesus' reaction seems baffling. He doesn't let them have it right between the eyes, calling them out for what they are. Jesus knows what is in their hearts before knowing it themselves. Perhaps that is why St. John emphasizes the goodness of Jesus over the sin of the disciples. Jesus, God in the flesh, revealing who he is and how we are to be for one another. In these quiet, unmistakable actions, we see Jesus' physical movements, which corresponds to his oneness with the God of mercy. Jesus got up from the table, took off his outer robe, and tied a towel around himself, poured water into a basin, and washed the disciples' feet, and wiped them with the towel that was tied around him. After sitting for a few moments, the meal finished, Peter gets up to help clear the table. On his way out to the kitchen with a stack of dishes, he notices the towel that Jesus had used. It is still wet as he picks it up and lays it over his shoulder. The smell of soap and damp reaches his nostrils, and a welter of shame rocks him on his feet. Sweat clusters on his hairline, and a shiver rides down his back. He doesn't understand any more than he did before Jesus washed his feet, but what he does understand is that he should have kept his mouth shut like everyone else. Maybe they were silent out of astonishment or fear or something, but they were better off. He wonders if he'll ever get it right. What an idiot he'd made of himself. So now he's helping with the clearing up. He hits his massive shoulder on the wall on his way through the door, and the dishes clatter in his hands. But he doesn't drop them. He makes it through and down the stairs without breaking them. A sigh of relief greets Mary as she takes them from him. She smiles at him, and he feels even more of a fool. But in the midst of his growl, he realizes that she's not really laughing at him. "At least you say when you don't understand," she says. She reaches for the towel, but he jerks his shoulder away automatically. "It's not sacred," said Mary. "No," said Peter. "Of course not." But between one room and another, the towel had seemed to become holy or special. He laughs abruptly and shoves it at Mary. A sacred towel? But then he watches Mary as she turns away and wonders what will be left when Jesus is gone to wherever he's going. Peter has a sudden urge to run after Mary to ask her, but he slaps himself on the head instead and goes back to join the others. John gets up abruptly from the table, leaves the room and paces outside for a few minutes. Judas has gone, and he must have gone quickly because John can't hear any sign of him. John is so angry that he cannot think in straight lines. He can only see a jumble of red and black in front of his eyes. He can only hear the words spoken and remember the bread dipping into the dish and the two hands that shared it. Jesus' hand and Judas. Judas, who was his friend, who he had walked and talked with. John stops pacing. Has he misunderstood? He was so used to misunderstanding, but he wasn't like Peter. At least Pete was able to get this stuff out into the open, but this? He can't tell anyone about this. What if it was a mistake? Perhaps Judas has gone to get some more bread or wine. Peter comes out to join him. What's going on, he says. Oh, it's hot in there. Peter, what are we meant to do? Can't we do something? I don't know. Peter touches his arm. Come back inside and finish eating. Peter passes the cup to John and John to James. James feels like a child watching a play he doesn't understand. He daren't look too much at his brother. He passes the cup to Philip and feels like he might have just made a promise or agreed to something without sufficient information. He wants to take the cup back from Philip. Philip thinks that, yes, he understands symbols, but how is this wine Jesus' blood? He almost splutters it as he takes a sip. Thomas is still wondering how he can follow Jesus if he doesn't know the way, and he takes a gulp without thinking too much about it. John watches the others. He watches them drink and he looks forward to when he can go. Peter is scorching with rage and his hands are fists in his lap. Deny him, he asks in silence. Disown him? His throat aches. But he's mine. Peter gets up and stumbles out of the room. Instead of exposing their hearts, not Judas or even Peter's, Jesus reveals himself as the one who loved his own to the end, even becoming a servant, knowing full well the mixed motives of his disciples. And knowing our mixed motives, he loves us to the very end also. Perhaps after this strangest of Lents and Holy Week, perhaps it's caused us to think that somehow it's all over. Church as we know it has come to an end. To some of us that hurts, maybe unbearably so. What was known is now unknown and unfamiliar. We are the dispersed community until this pandemic has passed. So perhaps this time of exile is the time to truly allow Jesus to wash our feet, to see him with fresh eyes and hearts, uncluttered by what my church should look like because, as Peter said in that story, he's my Jesus. St. John's emphasis in this story is that although Jesus is about to come face to face with darkness, evil, and death, he is the light that has come into the world. The light Let our light shine as never before in these dark days. Shine from our hearts, shine from our eyes. Let us make a difference to our world. Blessed are you, Lord God, for giving us your only Son, who gave himself to his disciples during the Thanksgiving meal as the food for everlasting life. May his Spirit so fill our hearts that our love is limitless and our praise be boundless. This we ask of you, God, who are blessed for ever and ever. Amen.